Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel here today, and we're back for another Walking Dead video here today, and today we're going to be discussing the conflict between Luke and Kenny and what happened to it, because obviously, originally what was planned was supposed to be a big fight between Luke and Kenny instead of Jane and Kenny at the end of episode 5 of season 2, because obviously there had been certain examples throughout season 2, for example, picking between Luke and Kenny at the table, or in episode 4 with Rebecca leaving with Kenny going after the night after, or Luke's plan to stay, let Rebecca rest a couple days. There was obviously a huge conflict. So today, basically, this video is what if Kenny and Jane had never happened as originally, as it was supposed to be, and if Kenny and Luke had replaced it. And basically I'm going to explain a little backstory behind why the Kenny and Luke scenario got scrapped. Alright guys, if you do love these videos, make sure you smack a like button on them. If we can get 150 likes on this, I'll try to drop a video by the 10th, which I believe the 10th is, Saturday? Yeah, Saturday or Sunday. We'll try to get another video out by Sunday if we get 200 likes. Also, you guys can go vote in the straw poll link down below in the description. Got some more new topics for you guys. Any topics, please leave them down in the description. I'll try to, again, pin the top comment, I think. Like I said, the comment I usually pin is the one I'll add onto a video, so shout out to my boy David Garcia. One of your topics is in this list. Thank you again for suggesting it. You'll know which one it is if from the last video. So guys, thank you all again for watching, and we're gonna get straight into this video again, and I'll see y'all later. Peace. Good feeling we're back here, guys. So what I'm first gonna be talking about here, guys, is why was this scrapped? Obviously, I know for a fact, and a lot of you have told me this before, I know for a fact this was originally how it was supposed to be planned. It was planned originally as a Kenny versus Luke fight. And originally, throughout episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, you saw a conflict between these two main ones. And obviously, this episode 2 choice that I'm showing you right here between picking Kenny and picking Luke was, I believe, the biggest choice that they signified of who you really are around, who's your Clementine supposed to be friends with. And honestly, when you saw at the end of episode 4, you knew the shit was hitting the fan. Remember when you had, for the example of Luke and Kenny fighting about what to do with Rebecca, whether you should go and get her to that town before the next gets too cold and she dies, or to go with Luke's plan and have her rest. There was obviously conflicts. So why would Telltale draw up all these conflicts and then just unfortunately not have Kenny and Luke fight? It was scrapped. It was pretty obvious. And I don't think Jane originally was planned to have as big of a role as what she ended up getting in season 2. It's pretty obvious that I think, Jane was given, probably the writers decided Jane was going to be given a bigger role in season 2, episode 4. Obviously, I think after maybe they're on that point, they decided that she was going to have a huge impact. Now, obviously, here, I'm going to discuss a couple ideas on why I didn't think this happened. Obviously, you don't have to disagree or agree, but based on what I've read. Now, obviously, there was a lot of things that, had happened, and Telltale was afraid of something. So, what I heard, one of the things was supposedly something called Kluke, which was something some people wrote up between Clementine and Luke in a love relationship. Obviously, effed up in the head, we all know that. But it was crazy. Someone came up with, I don't remember the exact person's name, but this entire army of, I call them Kluke lovers, started something, and obviously a lot of complaint was drawn from it. So I believe based off that, having a Luke Clementine lead thing, Telltale slid off the Luke thing and had Luke die in the water and had Jane replace Luke. That's obviously a theory. I don't know for 100% if that is true, but obviously it was a twisted fantasy, obviously. Yeah, I mean, obviously no one really, nothing real. I really don't agree with that at all, and it's obviously terrible that someone would even think of that, honestly. But a lot of people have told me this is one of the reasons why this didn't happen. I've asked people, and they said that this was one of the main reasons that the Kenny-Luke fight was scrapped from the game, because of this Kluke and this weird-ass fantasy. Because supposedly there were voice actors also complaining about this. Remember, it was the pizza and ice cream choice. We all remember there was a pizza and ice cream choice. And obviously, this pizza and ice cream choice, we all thought was originally, it was going to be Kenny and Luke. And obviously, that changed. And I think it probably changed around, episodes 2 or 3. I don't think when they changed this, but obviously, the stuff with Kluke obviously did freak people out enough. So, in the end, I do believe that's one of the reasons why. Another reason why is that maybe based off reaction on Luke's character, they did not like his character enough, so they might have just scrapped it. Now, obviously, Luke, his death was very unfortunate in episode 5, and I would have rather have seen. But like I said, supposedly the Kluke thing was just a rumor, and apparently somebody, there was audio files. Now, obviously, this is what I didn't discuss. There are audio files in Season 2, Episode 5 of Luke surviving falling into the water. Now, obviously, I don't remember. There was a video I saw of it. I wasn't sure, but I know for a fact there were audio clips that got cut from the game that showed Luke living after falling in the water in Episode 5. So Luke was planned to have lived after falling originally in the water. Or maybe it could have been determined. I don't know. But that completely changes everything up, because I believe Jane was originally... I think Telltale originally intended Jane not to come back. I had a feeling that they originally intended, but as they saw things go along, they might have actually changed that. But there are audio files. I'll try to find them. If I can actually find them, I will link them in the description down below. But like I said again, there was a lot of crazy stuff that has a result of that. So no matter what, Kenny was obviously going to be in this fight. The thing was, just the Luke and Jane part was the part that obviously they didn't know. There was too much mystery in terms of that. So that basically the determination was to find out, well, are we going to do that, this or that? But obviously, it kind of did have the Kenny-Luke build-up. We obviously, like I said earlier in the video, we had episode 2. Who do you stay with, Luke or Kenny? Or episode 4, listen to Kenny or listen to Luke. And then they had them fighting at the end of episode 4. It was obviously like, if they were hitting at it enough, there were very, very, very subtle hints of a potential conflict between the two. So, I believe Luke's death originally was not even planned, like that how he died in episode 5. I think it was scrapped though, as this. I mean, a lot of people actually found this like interesting that there were cut audio files, but people had said maybe the voice actor of Kenny, which his name is Gavin Hammond, Telltale had planned for Luke to die, but he said not in a Kenny-Luke fight. So maybe potentially there could have been, no possible fight decision though. So it's honestly very unfortunate that this happened. I really would have wished a Kenny and Luke fight. Now, obviously, give me in the comments what kind of fight you would have wanted between Kenny and Luke. If they would have gotten, which one would you rather had? Would you rather had Jane and Kenny or Kenny and Luke? Because obviously, I think I would have rather had a Luke and Kenny fight. That would have been honestly, to me, that would have been a tough choice. I mean, I probably still would have gone with Kenny, but Luke obviously was one of my favorite characters in Season 2, and I think a lot of people can agree. He might have been one of yours, too, and how he died was just so... It hit me in the feels, man. It was unfortunate, and obviously, he was already injured and stuff, so it was sad. Alright, so that's moved on to the part of why I believed it was scrapped. That's basically just a little discussion. If you guys have any other, reasons why you think it was scrapped, leave me down in the comments. So now I'm going to talk about the scenario of what if this was replaced. So, if we remember, what if let's just say we switch out, for example. So I'm going to put up a scenario here where Jane and Luke switch places. And instead of Luke drowning, it's Jane instead. Jane, obviously, is the one that maybe Jane gets shot, rescuing the group in episode 5. She still returns, but she gets shot, and she's got that limp. And obviously, as a result, she, on the ice, gets the same fate as Luke and drowns. Now, obviously, with Luke being in here, we have a different, outlook. I discussed last week, I'll link that down below in the description. But I talked a video about what if Mike, Bonnie, and Arvo didn't betray the group. Now, and obviously in this scenario, Mike, Bonnie, and Arvo are betraying the group. So now Luke and Kenny, our two remaining characters, have already been at conflict in episode 4. Obviously, they were sort of getting along at the campfire, but I mean, like I said again, shit hits the fan. Kenny was mad, and Luke was rationale, but he was willing to do stuff. He was saying Kenny was broken in episode 4 and all that stuff. I mean, there was obviously conflict. It was brewing, and obviously Telltale hinted at it, even though it didn't really happen. So then, obviously, you have the betrayal. And how, after that betrayal would still happen no matter what, Kenny or Luke or Jane being there. That betrayal probably still happens. And now that leaves you the scenario of waking up in the car with Kenny and Luke. And will they start fighting? Similar to Jane and Kenny. That's what we gotta look at, because honestly, place Jane in Luke's spot and you might have the same scenario of them fighting. Maybe not some dirty terms, but they might get into some conflict. I don't know if they'll, it's pretty obvious. There would have been some kind of conflict. Now, obviously, I don't know if the end decision would have been the same. Would it have been save Kenny or save Luke? It seems likely that could have been a scenario. Save Kenny or save Luke. And if you go with Luke, where would have Luke wanted to go? I don't know. I'm trying to remember where Luke would have possibly wanted to go. Maybe he wanted to go to... I'm not sure if I remember. Anyone want to tell me in the comments, but I don't think he wanted to go to Wellington. Because I think when Kenny mentioned that in episode 2 of season 2, I don't believe Luke was thrilled for the idea, and so was Nick either. So they both were kind of like to the idea. So maybe Luke would have wanted to go back to House potentially, or would have gone back to. I don't think he would have gone with Mike to Texas, but you never know. It was obvious that a conflict was brewing. It was getting intense. All right, so now let's drop the scenario. If we cut out that scene where Jane doesn't even return at all and Luke just goes out throughout the episode. Let's say Luke still gets shot, he ends up healing up, Jane never shows up, and then let's say a scenario of Luke just living through. And then let's just say there's another scenario potentially Luke could leave with Mike, Bonnie, and Arvo. That's another possibility. What if that happened? Luke betraying the group was something no one would ever see. I mean, obviously, you had a feeling Arvo was shady at the end of the day. Arvo was a shady guy, and Bonnie, obviously, with her bullshit throughout episode 2, 3. I mean, you had a feeling about her. Mike, honestly, I didn't think Mike was a bad guy. I really didn't expect it. And obviously, everyone knew Luke was a good guy. Luke wasn't out to, obviously, some things he said about Kenny, but I mean, other than that, I had no issues with Luke. Luke was a very solid character, and he was likable, and he cared about the group, man. And he was reminiscing, I remember in episode 5, he was reminiscing about how they lost everybody and how he blamed himself. That takes, I mean, that's the feels train, man. I feel so bad, to be honest, for what had happened to Luke, because he lost all his cabin group. They're all gone. They were all gone in episode 5. But then in this scenario, the fight with Kenny and Luke would have probably ended up still happening. No matter what scenario you would have gotten, I can't see them replacing, Jane with someone else other than Luke. Because honestly, who else do you have? There's nobody else. Because all the other people are snakes. They just leave the group. I mean, honestly, it's so stupid. But I bet you this fight would have probably had Luke over top of Kenny instead of having Kenny over Jane. Who knows? And what if Luke is on top of Kenny? The reason I believe more people almost ended up shooting Kenny, it was pretty almost a 50-50, was because Kenny was on top of Jane. And to make Kenny seem antagonistic, oh, Kenny's about to kill Jane, oh no, we need to stop him. But what if it would have been Luke over Kenny, oh no, Luke's gonna kill Kenny. Ooh, or Kenny's gonna kill Luke. Because Luke's more of a likable character than Kenny. Or Luke's more of a likable character than Jane, I meant. So, there's obviously more people would have been more inclined to shoot than to prevent the murder from happening than what you got. You almost got a 50-50 with the decision. And obviously, even after, you had some people still shoot Kenny or leave Jane, or, honestly. Because there was potentially, like I said, 3 different scenarios you could leave Kenny. You could shoot him, You could leave him you could shoot him the second time after refusing to shoot him, and then you could just leave him. You could leave him 3 different times, actually 4 different times, and leave him at Wellington. See, they pushed in season 2 for you to leave Kenny. They gave you all the options. If you hated Kenny, they gave you all the options. Would have they done something like that with Luke? Now, obviously, Jane, remember, she had the baby. Would have Luke had the baby? Luke had AJ. I don't know. Would have Luke? I don't think Luke would have done something like Jane had done and hid the baby. Maybe Luke legitimately loses the baby. I don't know. But maybe Luke would have had some kind of plan. I don't know. But Luke would have not shown how broken Kenny was. I believe the fight would have started over something different. Because honestly, Luke wasn't like Jane. Luke wasn't gonna, reveal Kenny's darkness. Like, honestly, because all Jane was trying to do was teach Clem a lesson. And honestly, she did it terribly. Because she basically started the whole fight by just hiding AJ when that fight was completely unnecessary. Because she wanted Clem to herself, basically. That's in all honesty. So how would a Luke done? Leave me in the comments what you guys think Luke would have done after the car crash happens. Would he, if he hid the baby, what if he would have done with AJ? That's a very interesting scenario. Because honestly, I like the chat. This is where the comments come up very likely, and I really like to read them because I like to hear what people think. Because honestly, there's not 1 or 2 right answers for this. There's a ton of possibilities. There's not one right answer. There's lots that could happen. Honestly, we just gotta look at it from a scenario of just Luke and Kenny instead of Kenny and Jane. You know what I mean? But honestly, this fight would have been probably more brutal. It probably would have been more fist to fist, and it would have ended again in Clem having to probably make a decision, or maybe there's some other group. What if Arvo or Mike or one of them plan to return, and you have to choose one to save one? I mean, you never know. It may. I originally think this was planned to be the choice, obviously based on the decisions in the past episodes, but obviously was scrapped because of other things. Like I said, Luke may not have been the main reason, but it was a factor, I think, obviously, and there was some other things that had popped up that may have convinced Telltale to do something different. But it all comes down at the end of the day. It's up to Telltale on that, and they decided Jane and Kenny was the right fit. Alright guys, so that is my video basically discussing today what if Kenny and Luke had replaced Jane and Kenny, and why I think that was the Kenny and Luke fight was originally scrapped, or at least was intended but gotten rid of. Hope you guys did enjoy. It's over a 16-minute video, so I do appreciate you guys can leave support. 200 likes and we'll drop a video by Sunday. Appreciate your support again, guys. If you missed any videos from the release date, discussion on returning characters, or anything in terms of Season 4, sure to check that down below in the description. And make sure to go on Straw Poll. There's some good options. Obviously, one of them you might want to check out, some with Vernon, wink, wink. And there's another one maybe where I make an encompassing video explaining all the stuff coming into Season 4 that we know so far. Alright guys, thank you all again for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace. Expect Batman soon. I'm crossing my fingers so we can get it done soon. I really want to get started. I'm sorry I've been delaying it. I've just been, like I said again, school started, and I'm trying to balance a lot of things out. So, we'll see. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
Find you, AJ. These eyes, there's never enough light to blind